We're rolling.
It's not live, Jason. Calm down.
We're
no, it
rolling.
really is. He really. It's,
But I have that actor thing about rolling.
You know
Rolling.
something?
Oh,
You
I'm
know
in show
something?
business.
If I could redo the best friend prayer.
Yeah.
All right, so here we
rolling.
go. So
We're rolling.
okay.
Really? No, really. Really? No, really. Really?
We got a special guest. I always say special guest, but this is truly. I was excited about this.
I know you were.
Wonderful-
I know you
wonderful
called
hu-
me. You were very
I
excited.
know, a wonderful human being.
Why were you so excited?
Because he was on a hit show,
Wow.
and he's beloved.
Wow. Oh, a twofer. I knew Jesse Tyler Ferguson when he was a pup back in his theater days. Well, he still has theater
Well,
days.
okay,
Back in
let's
his
talk.
early
Okay,
theater
so
days.
let's talk about this for a second. He's
Yes.
done a lot of theater, a lot of Broadway. Modern Family, we know him from 11 years.
11 years.
11 years.
And no
11
Emmy.
Hold on, wait. Stop. You know something? You have to step on every. You know what? We prepare things and then you ruin them.
I'm
you
sorry.
ruin
I thought
everything that I love.
I didn't see that in the email.
So
I
let's
didn't
bring-
see, don't mention
So
it.
let's start with that. You guys have a lot in common. Hello, Jesse.
Hello, Peter.
Nice to see you. So
Nice to
here's the
see
deal.
you.
Let's open
Yeah.
with this.
Yeah.
You have a lot in common.
So much.
Both in the producers.
Yeah.
Wait. So
Different
both
parts.
both Tony Award winners.
Yes.
Yes.
And both 9 years playing a role, 11 years playing a role, and never got an Emmy for that role.
Yeah.
You were nominated, though, right?
I was nominated many times.
How many times?
7.
More than me. 5.
Right.
And?
Well, you must really suck. So there you go. I suck, but you must really suck.
I really do.
Here's the thought. Here's the thought. The Emmy voters every year for 11 years went, still not buying him as a
Yeah, I don't
yeah,
believe it.
really?
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
believe it. No.
Jason,
No.
is George Costanza. You know what? If he just tried
Yeah,
a
he's
little.
good. But that
Yeah.
David Hyde Pierce, boy.
Oh, was he your nemesis?
I had, you know who I lost to every time? Either, and I totally get it.
Yeah.
Either David Hyde Pierce or Michael Richards.
Yeah.
So, I see it.
lost
I
to
see
my
your point.
co-stars.
Yeah, go ahead.
I lost to Eric twice,
Burrell.
Ty Burrell twice, and then Tony Hale, who I also adore, once.
gosh, yeah.
So, I can't complain.
No.
But when you're there, be honest, for the first everybody.
And
this
we're
is-
always in the first category up. So then you
Yes.
sit there the
Then you
rest of
sit
the
there-
night.
that's right. They
Going,
haven't
oh,
changed that."
God, give me a kind bar or a knife to
Totally.
put out my own eye.
Do you know what's funny about that? Billy Crystal, I know pretty well, and Billy used to say the things that people don't understand when you're hosting an award show is, you got to be really funny, but by the third award, 70% of the audience has lost.
Yeah.
They're not going to laugh.
Yeah.
They're not having a great
That's
time.
so true and something I never thought about.
Yeah,
actually.
they're also, Billy said, I'm looking at losers.
Yeah.
And I'm going, so you know what happened in the White House? Yes. And no one cares.
one
They're not
cares.
listening.
Yeah.
They just want you dead. And they
Yeah.
got to sit there and act like they don't care that they lost. Because everybody's natural position is, I lost and I don't care.
Which is why when I co-hosted with Senior Moment, not that she's not well known.
Yul Brynner.
No,
Sophia
come
Loren.
on, no.
Give me a hint.
She was in Moonlighting with Bruce Willis. Come on, I'm just having a
Cher?
senior moment. No,
I was just going to say Cher. That was Moonlight.
No,
you're thinking of
Candace Bergen?
No, the model, the supermodel who was in. Oh, come on! I'm
Jesse.
so
All of this
embarrassed.
out.
She is so. Emmys with the Sybil
Shepherd.
Shepherd. Thank you. I'm thinking
producer Laurie.
Cheryl Teague.
Oh, my
Cheryl
God.
Teague. I'm going. It's not Cheryl Teague. Sybil. I'm so
Shepherd.
sorry. I'm just old, darling. I can't remember my own children's names. No, I did a thing where I went out and I said, everybody here, everybody nominee, they're great artists.
Yeah.
And yet one is picked, one is anointed to come up and speak. Not fair. Let's talk to some of the losers. Let's talk to some of the people, equally fine artists, equally fine, no difference. This is so arbitrary. And then I go out and I go, Tyne Daly. Do you think he even had a shot? I mean, honestly, let's be.
That's so good.
Did you work yourself up like 11 years? Every time did you go, it's got, just by the math alone, they have to do it. Now, this year will be a guild vote. I mean, really, you played
There was only
really.
1 year where I thought I had a shot. The other years I really thought I was lucky to be nominated, truly. And then the last time I was nominated was the season where I got married. And the episode I submitted was one of the wedding. It was a 2-part wedding episode. And it just had there was a lot of great stuff there, a lot of great stuff with my dad, Jay Pritchett, who's played by the brilliant Ed O'Neill. And I thought, well, if they were ever going to give it to me, this would be the time. And then Ty won again.
And how How long do you have to act like you are thrilled for him? Is it a day, 2 days, a week? How long do you have to go, congratulations again? So like New Year's, like Larry David always says, after like January 4th, you can stop saying Happy New Year.
Yeah,
when do you say, Ty, it's enough already?
I said it immediately. Ty, enough is enough. While he was up there doing his acceptance speech, said, enough, Ty.
That's good. Good.
Obviously, I was thrilled for him. But it was one of those things. Like, I remember some actress was, I think it was Amy Poehler, after like her 8th nomination for, Parks and Recreation. She was like, oh, okay, I get it. I see what's happening here. Joke's on me. Ha ha ha. That's sort of kind of what I was starting to feel like.
Did Craig T. Nelson did he turn down the Ed O'Neill role?
He did.
Really? No, that's a by
that's
the way,
a real thing.
First, really is that you guys, between you, I love to do the cumulatively 20 years and no Emmy. Lots of nominations. That's amazing.
Although I have an Emmy.
You do, yeah.
Daytime. I'm sorry.
That doesn't matter.
Something
Still,
what's more interesting is it's an Emmy Award for something I did not do that never appeared on any kind of broadcast. Yeah, it was a Funny or Die video.
Oh, no
and
way.
I only wrote it. I didn't write it. I'm sorry. I only sang on it. But they couldn't nominate for performance, so they listed me as a writer. And then it won. Wow. So I have a daytime Emmy for writing something I did not write that never appeared in any kind of a broadcast whatsoever.
That's amazing.
And I'm proud.
Every time I go to his house, I see the Emmy and I take a Post-it and I write daytime and stick it on there because I don't want anybody
fraudulent daytime.
I have a question for you. Was the Emmy when you were growing? Because I'm going to talk about you. I read in Wikipedia, which means it has to be true, that you kind of gravitated to the idea of acting when you were 8. Is that
around that age?
Okay,
yeah.
I was a little. I was 12 or 13. Yeah. But when you were fantasizing about, hey, if this works, I will be a. What was it? Was it theater? Did you think the whole shebang? Right.
Always theater.
You and me.
And why? What
was that's the prelude.
We
to
have
my
so much in
question.
common, Jason. Actually, you've been on my mind a lot recently, and for many reasons. But one of the reasons is because I went and saw that fabulous production of Merrily We Roll Along that's on Broadway right now, and I just think about you every time I hear that music, and that you were such a part of an iconic show like that, and obviously it had a very turbulent past, and but I just love that you were part of its history, and then also just that your roots are in the theater, and that's like I know that's where your love is, and
absolutely.
And then also just because I'm running to a lot of people now who are discovering Modern Family for the first time, and I think your show is very similar in that it lives on this platform now, and people they'll discover Seinfeld and watch it and fall in love with it all over again, 50 years later.
Yeah, no, I mean, almost, we're getting there. We're getting really close.
But yeah, theater was always my first love.
So here's the question. It's a weird question, and I don't want it to sound like I'm not grateful or anything like that, but when you were up for the Emmys, was it important to you to win it?
I'm going to say no, but I'm also going to I'm going to say that I was disappointed not to win it.
Yeah.
But the first time I was nominated for an Emmy, I really was so shocked that I was being recognized because I was in this ensemble of 6 brilliant adults, and then also the kids were so fantastic. Yeah. I knew Eric would be recognized. I knew Ty Burrell would be recognized. I really kind of I could make a case for any of the other people, but then the fact that I was included was just sort of a surprise. And actually, not many people remember this, but Ed O'Neill was not nominated in the first season, which I thought was just completely shocking. And then he was in the second and third season. I think all 6 of the adults were nominated. So I was nominated with my whole cast, well, the adult cast at least. And so for me, it just sort of felt like that was the win. And the Emmy, I never stood in front of my bathroom mirror imagining winning an Emmy or even an Oscar, but it was always a Tony.
That's exactly what I say when I'm asked about this.
Yeah.
And so now I'm going to ask you the follow-up question to that. I won my Tony when I was 29, and I thought I had very
Jerome
realistic.
Robbins Broadway.
Right, you betcha. I thought I had really realistic dreams about, maybe when I'm 40, I'll get to Broadway, and maybe if I'm 60, I'll play some great role and I'll be nominated for a Tony. And then at 29, it hits me. And I don't want to lead the witness. You win the Tony. Did it meet your expectations?
I'm going to say yes, only because I did a lot of theater before that, and I did some roles that I felt like were Tony nominational worthy.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't want to say ignored, because everyone that was nominated was obviously very worthy, but there was some disappointment there early on in my career. And so I was sort of feeling, oh, this thing I really want so bad that means so much to me is I'm not part of that club. Right. And so when I was nominated, obviously it felt really wonderful. Again, I was nominated against some of my cast members. So it's like, oh, I've been here before. Like, I know how this goes. Like, you don't get it when your cast members does. But when it finally happened, I just being able to stand in front of it, I'm kind of glad that it did happen later in my career, not when I was in my 20s, but like I was able to stand in front of this community that meant so much to me, and meant so much to me before I even got to New York. Like I dreamed of being on Broadway when I was a kid in Albuquerque, New Mexico, listening to cast albums in my bedroom, like to stand in front, and like, Patti LuPone and Bernadette Peters are in the front row. And like, these are some of the people that I would listen to in my, they rescued me from situations when I was a kid. Like, they meant so much to me. And to stand in front of that community and say, thank you so much for allowing me in, that meant everything to me. So in that respect, yes, it did mean as much as I thought it would. And it probably meant more than I thought it was going to mean. Yeah. Because I got to thank the community. The award itself, probably not. Like, I think all awards like never mean as much as you want them to mean. They don't change your career in ways that you want them to change. Right. But for me, that personal moment of being able to stand in front of the New York theater community and thank them, was really powerful.
It's so interesting. I hear and understand everything you just said. And, my experience was I was young enough that I kept thinking, well, when I win the Tony Award, I will be someone, or my life will achieve something, or I will have gotten to the that I dream about. Right. And I remember same thing going, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe this is happening. Tommy Toon gave me the award. He hugged me. His belt buckle went into my face. And I made the speech, and I went to the party, and I went home, and and the way I tell it, so sometimes I go, and there were 20 messages on my machine. And 20 messages was a lot. I mean, the normal day is 3-4 messages. Yeah. But it wasn't 100. Yeah. It was 20. Yeah. And I went to bed that night, and my wife, who knows how much I love the show Pippin, says to me, how do you feel? And I went, I thought there'd be more plumes. Yeah. And it was a really great lesson about it's not the destination, it's the journey. Yeah. And that's why when I started getting nominated for Emmys, I thought, well, that's a lark. I never even thought I'd be on TV. Yeah. And sure, you get there and you go, well, this would be cool, I guess.
Sure, of course you want it.
But it was never. I never had that sort of crushing, oh, geez, I shoulda, or why not me, or,
Well, I think if you're starting to feel that, you're obviously for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, we can always be disappointed, but like, think about how many people are on television, and just you're one of 5 or 6 people chosen to be honored by just a nomination. It's a really big deal.
By the way, let me ask you about that. You guys decided we're all going to be supporting actors. The cast got together and said nobody's going to be the breakout. We're going to do this because you're an ensemble. Seinfeld also shared, I've talked about Seinfeld at live gigs that we do and whatever. Mm-hmm. And the amazing thing about that show is that those guys would say, like I know Jason would say to Julia, I think this line's funnier for you than me. It was very much that as far as helping each other, right, Jay?
Yeah, I mean, that was to the extent that I can explain why our ensemble became an ensemble was very early on when the show was struggling, and we thought, let's just get some good tape for our next audition. We couldn't help but enjoy what each other were doing. Yeah. And there were instances where, George would have a bit and I'd say, wouldn't this be better on Elaine? Yeah. I mean, if it's really a coin toss, it'd be funnier on her. Or we'd have a thing going and we'd go, we don't need this whole section of Michael just falls on, trips over the thing. Right. We just started thinking of passing the ball.
Right.
And I would have to assume you guys were, you were the Harlem Globetrotters when it comes to that. It was just, there were so many
players. Yeah.
Well, it was a big cast. Yeah. And I had just, I had done a show a few seasons previous where it was also a big cast, and the characters kind of got lost in just, you only have when you're doing a network show, 22 minutes to tell the story because there's commercial breaks. And so like, to honor all of these different characters is really hard. And so when I was part of a big cast again, I was like, oh, I've been down this road before. But for some reason, the writers were so good about, for some reason, that's why they have Emmy Awards. But like they were so great about like really carving out moments and really clarifying who these people were in a very efficient amount of time. And so, it felt very like the reason why there was so much richness is I think it's because we were a great ensemble. And like, I think if you took a single person out of that group of 6 adults, like we wouldn't have been as strong as a team.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question?
Sure.
Who were you all talking to?
Yeah, what's with I said to Jason, the documentary stuff, we get it.
Why is
anybody funding you to begin with? But then when it's in the car, is the guy holding on outside?
Great device.
Yeah.
You can do so much storytelling and really truncate. But
It's
I went,
true.
who are they talking to?
Yeah, it's kind
Who's
of
running
when
this?
The Office did that, and then like in the last season, you started to see the documentary crew. I was like, oh, that's so interesting. Like, what a great twist.
Yeah.
There was an early version of the show where the documentarian was actually a character. And it was an exchange student that had stayed with the Pritchetts when he was young, like a Dutch exchange student. And so he came back and he was doing a documentary about this family that he used to live with when he was a kid. And so they had actually honored that character as well. So he was part of the story. Wow. And then it became to the point where like, well, we need to cut there's too many people. And he was the most natural person to cut. So, but they still kept the device of the documentary. So, none of us know
who or what. Good.
But also in the first season, we really were like, okay, well, if this is a documentary crew and we're coming in from outside and we're going inside, like we would have to hold the door open for them and they would have to go in first to set, like we honored all of that, like the reality of like what it would be to have a documentary crew. And then like season 3, we'll like, come home from picking up groceries and like open our door and there's already a crew filming us. Like we lost that device.
I also wonder.
My head would have exploded because I'm such a linear thinker.
Yeah.
The minute they cut the documentary character, I'd go, well, then we can't do it.
Why are we doing it?
We can't do it.
Well, he would be doing. I hear his. So they're in the bedroom. So they went into the bedroom, really, and the guy's sitting where on the bureau. What's he doing in here?
Or like
Nobody
we'll
cares.
have scenes in the middle of the night, like where I wake up, from a dream or something. I'm like, why is the camera on me?
Over you, while you're in bed lying there, the guy's on the ceiling. Okay, we just want to know that.
Yeah, I'm in focus. It's everything.
The other thing that's amazing about sitcoms, and it begged the situation for me as far as comedy, and is comedy in general the same all over the world? This is really in Iran, they took your sitcom, they took the gay characters and made them heterosexual.
That's right.
But they do basically a word by word shooting of Modern Family.
Yeah.
In China, they have they have shows, and in Russia, in Moscow, there's like 7 of them. They have It's Always Sunny in Moscow. So I'm wondering either a couple things, and I don't know the answer, but I'd like to explore it. Is it because other countries are just as non-creative as we are that they have to do something they've seen?
We took The Office, and the pilot of The Office, the American Office, is exactly the same as the British.
But there are countries that hate us that are taking our cultural families and putting them on.
Yes.
So there must be something resonating.
I'm going to give you a little life lesson because you haven't been in as much of the world as I have. When you say a country hates us, the country doesn't hate us.
Understood. I'm just saying.
The people actually go, blah, blah, blah.
So that's
the governments might not get it. Do you understand?
So, but the fact that they allow, I understand. Don't
try
be
and be
condescending, which means
try and bring people
don't be condescending,
together
which means
to talk down to.
Okay, so, but like in Russia to allow that, in Iran to allow that, and openly do these
in
shows.
Iran, Mitchell and Cam are Beiruz and Elham.
Yeah.
A husband and wife.
So what do you think? And you also
can't
said
have children because Beiruz is infertile.
Yeah.
That's sad.
Yeah.
So what is
different problems?
What do you think the? I'm getting.
Oh, that's nice. Pete.
Peter.
Who is it, Pete?
You know what? You can edit. You're the one who said you can edit,
No, we're
Jesse.
keeping that in. Tell us who
I
it
forgot.
was.
So sue me. I forgot. It's never happened in your little podcast?
Nope.
Oh, no, because you're out at dinner with waiters interrupting and everything else interrupting.
right.
Okay.
You know what? Can I have a bit of a natural segue because I mentioned that in Iran they eliminated the gay couple. Mm-hmm. So I want to, because you have been a huge gay rights advocate, especially when we were advocating for gay marriage.
Yeah.
So I just want to get your feeling on this, and this is the way I have 2 questions about it, and then I just want to see where you go. I have 2 friends that are directors that are gay, and there's a lot of, in all of our unions, a lot of focus now on diversity and inclusion and all this stuff. They are bitching and moaning to me because gay is no longer considered diversity in
Right.
the GGA. It's not a diversity hire.
Right.
Thoughts?
Apparently all the boxes have been checked. It's fine now.
I mean, okay, here are my thoughts. I think it's great because that means that there's been progress. And I think that like the fact that, when Modern Family started, this gay couple was a really revolutionary thing.
Right. First gay kiss on television.
Was it the first gay kiss?
I think so, yeah. And at least on network television. And the fact that by the time the show was ending, we weren't so revolutionary, I think is actually really great.
Yeah.
And there was a time when I feel like there was a great stigma around being openly gay and trying to find work in this business. And I still think that actually exists. I'm not gonna say we're completely free from that, but I do think that there are other groups that we need to be helping along, specifically the trans community.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you look at all these wonderful trans stories that are being told, and there's a plethora of really talented trans actors and actresses, and they need to be given opportunity. I mean, MJ Rodriguez was nominated for an Emmy because she's fantastic. So I think there's a laziness around trying to find the people in these communities that can be a part of the work that they live.
Right.
So I'm fine saying like, we're good for right now. Let's like put that energy that you were putting on us onto
Somewhere
like
else.
more
Wow.
diversity. Yeah, I'm 100%.
Are you
fine with
judged? Can
that.
I ask you, as a character, playing a gay man, and
Sure.
do you get judged by the community? Do you get hate mail that says you're doing this and it says that, and you're going, wait, what do you mean?
Well, I don't get hate mail, but I do feel like I think there's a pressure of representing an entire community,
Right.
and I'm representing one person in that community.
Right.
And so like if in Mitchell and Cam, first of all, almost every character in a sitcom specifically is a stereotype.
Right.
You can't.
Right.
You
It's a
have
broad-
to be
broad stroke.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you're broad strokes, and like you color in, like you obviously bring the nuance to the character, but on the page they're gonna be pretty broad
But I wonder,
strokes.
because I thought that's a responsibility,
Sure.
an added level of responsibility
Right.
of how am I coming off not only to comedy,
Yeah.
to the ensemble, but to an entire group of people.
I mean, Oprah made me feel really good because I heard her say one time that she sometimes feels like she's representing the entire Black community, and I was like, well, if she feels that way, then I certainly am okay
it.
feeling that. I feel like I can't represent the entire gay community.
Right.
Yep.
I'm going to represent one person in that community as well as I can, but I can't take on the entire group.
Right.
I need, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
So-
I want to ask you one other question about this. And I preface it by saying I have strong opinions about it myself, but they're not necessarily the right opinions. So I have played at least one notably overtly out gay, flamboyant character in the movie of Love, Valor, Compassion.
Yes.
I played Nathan Lane's role.
Yes.
So I preface that with your partner on Modern Family, Eric. is a straight man playing a gay character. I thought he was wonderful. So
Yeah.
did the Academy.
Yeah.
I think the entire audience thought he was wonderful. If he were cast as that today, I think there would be a lot more noise because there is an outcry for authenticity in casting.
Yeah.
And I know I've had many conversations with friends about how that extrapolates out and plays out. I remember Neil Patrick Harris saying, well, I hear that and I respect that, but by the same token, I've made an awful lot of money
Playing
playing
straight
straight
men.
guys.
Yeah.
So does this cut both ways?
Yeah.
Do you have any particular feelings about the specificity of straight actors playing gay, or how this also, my friend Bryan Cranston got some flack for playing a disabled character because he's not, where are you on all that stuff?
It's all about, for me, it's about representation and it's about opportunity. So I tend to agree with Neil on this. As actors, I think we all want to be able to play all different types of roles. If you're telling me I can only play gay roles, I think that's even worse than like the opposite. Saying gay men can only represent other gay men. I've had this conversation with Eric Stonestreet too. He and I both feel if we were casting Modern Family today, he might not have been allowed to play Cameron. However, I'm looking back a lot, this now 15 years when I was, and he loves when I tell people this, but I was cast before Eric was. And so I did a lot of the chemistry reads with different actors. And I read with gay actors. I read with black actors. I read with tall actors and short actors. Like I read with so many different types of people. I was like speed dating, and Eric was the one who I had the chemistry with. And that's more important than, there was some gay actors who were wonderful, but I didn't have chemistry with them. And I didn't know if Eric was gay or straight. Like, I mean, he came in, like, you saw him, what he does as his cam. Like, that's what I saw. So I was like, I don't know, maybe he's gay. I don't know. And then when I met him for coffee, after we both got cast, I was like, oh, you're obviously straight. But like the chemistry was there. And that's what I cared about. I was like, we want the best shot for the show. So that's that. But when I talk about representation and opportunity, I just feel like when there was a point where I think a lot of these roles were being written, and there wasn't great opportunity for the people who live these roles to even audition for some of these parts. There's been, I'm thinking back to that role of there's a trans character that Scarlett Johansson decided to back away from. Yeah. I don't know the ins and outs of all of that. I know that she's a huge star, and like there was a reason that maybe the story wasn't going to be told at all because she is not in it. But I don't know how many trans actors were actually seen for that, or they just offered it to Scarlett Johansson. I tend to think that maybe they did maybe a very brief search and then said, okay, let's get Scarlett Johansson to do this. Like, discover the talent.
But then again, because it's monetary. Right. They know that Scarlett Johansson's name above the credits is going to get people to watch, so they're torn. I'm sure they want to service it.
But you know what? No one who Hillary. Well, I mean, like Hillary Swank, she had done like one show, and then obviously we put her in Boys Don't Cry, and like that's that might be a bad example because she's not queer, but like there's so many people who we've discovered. Barbara Streisand. Okay, let's go there. Like, I mean, no one really knew who she was when they were casting Funny Girl. They had a list of huge stars who would have sold that film, but like. Right. She played the part, and now she's iconic for it. Like we have to assume that there are people out there who like can handle it. And sure, you hire an unknown to play the lead, then bolster it with like find other people that are fantastic to act around them, to support them, and like give the talent a shot to grow. I mean,
it's very it's endemic of our industry, and not just our industry, but why is Broadway filled with musicals that have been movies? Everybody that's spending money wants something that has made money before. And, of course they're looking for the known factor, and they're always looking to cut costs. When I think about, I could hire an actor with real disabilities, and I go, but you have to be aware that's going to drive our cost up for making this movie. And you have to be able to eat that cost and say, well, it's important to have authenticity in this role. Sure. It will matter on the other side, even though it's going to make the front-loaded side of the cost of doing it perhaps a little harder to do. But our industry doesn't enjoy things that raise or diminish the potential of that bottom line.
Well, again, it's monetarily driven. So I got to ask you the storyline. You probably talked about this, but I just want to know how it happened. They used your life story that you came out to your father 3 separate times.
Right.
I try to get my head around, how did he, after the first time being a father, how did you have to do it the second time?
Was he like, okay, that great?
Yeah.
You got me.
I think I heard it. I think he said, did he say? Yeah. I mean, how did that happen? You said, you know what? I think I got to do this again because it didn't take.
Yeah.
And then the third time you went, it really didn't take. I got to do it a different way.
Isn't that funny? Me and my dad both laugh about it now. He's like, I get it now. Believe me, I get it. I mean, the thing is, I didn't overtly come out to him the first time. I was caught stealing some materials from a bookstore that suggested I might be gay.
An interest.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
And so I was caught with that, and so like he saw the nature of the materials I had stolen. So I felt like, well, there you go. Like I don't need to come out now. Like that's it. And then later, my mom and I finally had a discussion about it, I think after I'd moved to college. And I think, I kind of officially, or she said, I know you're gay. And like, she was having a hard time with it as well. You have to also understand this is a time we're still in the AIDS epidemic. And like, there's a danger and an assumption that, if you're gay, you're going to, and especially if you move to New York, like, yikes. So, I think she mentioned to my dad, I've had this conversation with Jesse, and, this is a conversation we had. So she sort of came out for me to him.
Right.
And then my dad was visiting me in college. This is how I remember it. And he asked if I had a girlfriend. And I was like, Dad, why would I have a girlfriend? And I was like, I'm gay. And he's like, oh, yeah, your mother mentioned something about that. So I just feel like those were the 3 shots.
Oh, okay. All right.
I don't think I verbally ever said like I'm gay. And he's like, I didn't hear it. But like,
Okay. All right. I had to know how.
I had to break it down for you. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, because it's not like did he say that? And then totally ignoring that. And by that,
it did feel that way. It did feel like, stealing a gay pornography magazine is pretty much as clear as you can get.
well, and your mother and he must have had conversations at night in bed while they're watching TV going, it's enough already. You should,
right.
Don't you realize this, Mervyn, or whatever his name is? I like Mervyn. and then the third time, you already were exasperated because it's how dumb is my dad? Really, Dad, what else are you missing in life? Okay, all right.
How are you enjoying, this is such a stupid question the way I'm going to ask it, but you're living a version of Modern Family.
Yeah.
You and Justin, you have 2 kids now. And how is that? How is life in the Modern Family?
It's fantastic. it's not as well written, not as funny, longer. Feels longer. It's interesting. Justin and I got married the same year that Eric Stone Street and I got married on TV. Wow. So I had 2 weddings that year. Married my TV husband and my real husband, and it's so interesting because people would always ask, do you feel like you're ready for fatherhood, having done it on television? But when you have a kid on TV and they start to fuss and cry, a nurse comes in and takes them away. And if they're young enough, usually there's twins, and so they give you one that's not crying and it looks exactly the same. So it's like they just switch them out. So you don't really get a ton of practice with kids. But I do feel like I was always great with kids. Aubrey and I, Aubrey, who played my daughter on Modern Family, we both have a really great relationship. She also is a musical theater fan, so we bonded over that. And I don't know. I just feel like it was always something I knew I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be a father, and we're having a great time doing it. And
you're in this crowd of you're not old, but I'm an older father. On a sort of an older father thing.
And the kids
we were
young.
talking before we went, started recording about. I had mine in my 30s, and I've felt it.
Yeah. There's a piece of me that wishes I had done it while I was working on the show, just because I saw. Well, Julie had twins right before we started the show, and Ty and his wife started adopting their girls after the first season. So he was going through experiencing what I'm experiencing now while doing the show. Yeah. And I think there was something nice about, first of all, having a job. Because kids are expensive. So just having something that you're doing every day, just knowing you have something grounded to go to, but also an escape. Like, it was nice that they had that thing that they had to do. They had to go off and, shoot a show. And, they sort of, now it's harder for me to take jobs because I'm really weighing it against, if it takes me away from my children. But like they kind of had, first of all, the best situation. They were working in town, and it would have been nice to have maybe started fatherhood at that time, but that's not how it happened for me. And I started it during a pandemic instead, which was great.
Wow. It's total immersion.
Yes.
No escape.
Yeah.
Like it's an escape room and you can't figure out.
That's right.
Exactly.
Right.
So I got to ask you about Broadway briefly. Yeah. And it ties into the foodie thing, because I know you're a big foodie. I know you own part of a restaurant. You're an investor in a restaurant? How's that working out, by the way?
Good. Really good.
And you do your podcast from restaurants.
And I do my podcast.
So first of all, you played in a Broadway show where you played 40 characters. I don't understand that at all. I've seen him play a number of characters. How do you keep straight 40?
I played 10 of them well.
Okay, all right.
The other 30 were like kind of iffy.
Is that accurate?
I don't know. It's a play called Fully Committed. Do you know the play, Jason?
I do. I saw Jason Graw do it.
Oh, yeah. It's about a reservationist at a very, very fancy restaurant. And the play is about this reservationist, and he's been left alone with the lines all day. His coworker has not showed up to work. And so you watch him sort of like work through this hectic day, and he plays obviously himself, but then also the people on the other end of the line. So all these different people trying to get reservations, the chef, the hostess, he plays all these characters. And it's all done through phone calls and phone conversations. And what's different about it though is because he is having dialogue with these people. There's never like a monologue of one character. Like no character is present for more than like maybe 3 sentences. So you're basically in conversation with yourself for an hour and a half.
Wow.
And I started learning that play. I knew that I was going to be doing this on Broadway, and I started learning it like 9 months earlier. And then I would meet privately with Jason Moore, my director, and we would work on it before official rehearsal started. Because there was no way I was gonna be able to put the show together in like the 2
That's
weeks
insane. That's
I was gonna have.
totally insane.
Yeah. It was terrifying.
By the way, Jason Gra told me the funniest interaction with the audience story happened to him on that show.
What's that?
He's playing it out here in a mid-sized theater. It's not a huge theater. So he's well aware of
Yeah.
the audience. And he's doing a matinee, and he goes, it's a dead house. It's just
Oh, and nothing is worse than doing that show to a dead
right.
house. It's like trying to surf in a lake.
And he's doing the play, and a phone goes off in the audience.
Oh, Lord.
That's the first thing is you go, oh, for God's
Another
sake.
phone.
And now he hears. This is what he hears, and I'll do it in real time. Imagine you're doing the show, and you hear, hello, I can't talk to you right now. I'm watching a play.
Good night.
How he didn't leap off the stage
good.
and kill this person.
Oh my God.
What is it? You and I have done a lot of theater together, and boy, you're so good on stage. Man,
you,
are you
Jason.
good on stage. I am so bereft that I was not in New York during Take Me Out.
Oh,
Because I have many, many dear friends who saw you do it, and I love the play.
it's a great play.
And I'm sure you were extraordinary, and of course you won the Tony for it. But I've seen you do so many other things. And I want to go way back because there's going to be some theater geeks that listen to this too. What was the fun? What was the ride of Spelling Bee?
Oh,
Was it just because you were you with it more or less the whole way?
Sort of. I came on when it became a musical. It started off as an improv show, like off Broadway. And a few of the cast members who ended up doing it on Broadway were part of that. And they created sort of the template for the show. It wasn't a musical at that point. Or I think if it was a musical, there was some like, songs that like they were basically stealing stuff. Like,
jukebox.
Absolutely. And one of the cast members, Sarah Salzberg, she was a nanny for Wendy Wasserstein, the great playwright Wendy Wasserstein. And so Wendy came to see her nanny in this show and was really taken by it. She's like, I mean, it's a mess, but like there's something there. She goes, I would love for my friend William Finn to see this. William Finn is obviously an amazing composer, Tony Award winner for Falsettos and New Brain and all these fantastic shows. So Bill watched a tape of the show and decided that he would write the music for it. And so when it became a musical, that's when I got involved with it. But we workshopped it in the Berkshires over the winter. And it was like basically like The Shining. Like it was, these tiny little like curvy roads up to like these cabins that we would stay in. And it was, I remember one time, like some of our cast members got stuck up in their cabin because the icy road that was too dangerous to come down. And we had to like find a way to get them off the mountain so they could come do the show. And it was just all for the locals that lived in the Berkshires. And they came and saw this scrappy piece that wasn't done. It wasn't finished. And, Bill Finn created music for us sort of in that 3-week process when we workshopped the show. And then in the summer that the Barrington Stage Company produced it, and they produced it in their second stage space, which is they would convert this gym into the second stage space.
Yeah.
And they decided not to like hide the fact that we were in a gym. They decided to embrace it. And so we basically just like had the audience sit at like picnic tables and like, so they felt like they were in a cafeteria, and we did the show in the gym. And it kind of was this magical thing. And all these people from New York were coming in to see it. And Second Stage in New York decided that they wanted to do it at their theater. So we went to New York with it. And then they kind of recreated a gym as our set. And that's when Beowulf Borit, who's a fantastic set decorator, got involved, and he sort of recreated what we had at the Berkshires. And then a few months later, it transferred to Broadway very quickly. This all happened very, very fast. And I remember when we were nominated for Tony Awards, Dan Fogler was who played Barfay, and he has a song about his magic foot, and he writes the letters of the word he's trying to spell on the floor with his magic foot. And so they were setting up a crane shot in Radio City Music Hall of his foot. It started on his foot and like would zoom out. And I was like, Dan, they're setting up a crane shot for your foot. Literally not even a year ago, we were in the Berkshires in the middle of winter putting this show together. And this is where we are now. We're at Radio City Music Hall, and they're setting up a crane shot.
It's amazing.
It's
isn't it?
incredible.
Yeah.
And then it's a show now that's so beloved, and schools do it.
My son's
and
done it 3 times.
Has he really?
Always plays Barfay.
Oh my God!
And you
He's a
originated
professional
that
barfay.
role. You originated that role.
I originated the role of Leaf Coneybear. Yeah.
And stunning.
Thank
By
you.
the way, yeah, go ahead. Ask your question, and I'm going to follow up.
I
'cause
wanted to do the food thing a little more, explore that a little bit more, because apparently you were taken with it, and I read that the research cost a fortune because you were going to expensive restaurants.
Oh, when I was doing Fully Committed.
Yes, fully committed.
Yeah.
So is that when you fell in love with the food thing and invested in the restaurant, or you were already a foodie?
I was kind of already a foodie. I was at that point living in Los Angeles already, and so I was cooking a lot, and I was very active in the kitchen, and I was going to lots of great restaurants, and we had at that point invested in a few restaurants here in
Or
LA.
few. I see. I didn't know a few. And now you do the podcast, which is brilliant, by the way, because
Thank
we
you.
needed another hook. You get free food. You go to restaurants
Yeah.
with
Look at
celebrities,
us.
and we're getting.
I get cold coffee.
I get coffee and a little bit of
Mine's
something
warm.
if I'm lucky. They ran out of the sweetener.
For lunch, we're going over to the Popeyes at the strip mall.
So the doing it at the restaurants, the big thing for me was free. Everybody serves you free, and you just promote them.
I think so. That's a question for Sony, my producers. I think that they just give us the food.
You pick the place and you put the cameras in and go.
Yeah. We try and find places that, well, first of all, I try to find diversity in restaurants. So, we're not just always like Italian food's obviously very popular, but we can't just do everything at an Italian restaurant. Yeah. And I try and find, I just, this week Weird Al Yankovic's episode's dropping and he's vegan. So I took him to Cafe Gratitude.
Cafe Gratitude. I am
Exactly.
You want to know? You want the best story?
Tell me.
I took this schmuck sitting next to me to Cafe Gratitude, where all the dishes, ladies and gentlemen, are things like I am blessed.
I am grateful.
I am grateful.
I am humble.
I
am
take
hungry.
him to lunch there, and he yells out at this very, sort of Zen restaurant, I'm waiting 20 minutes for my I am patient.
Excuse me, I don't want to knock them, but Jason, of any place, he ignores. Like he goes, "What do you want?" I go, "Pizza. I want sushi." He goes, "I'll take Cafe Gratitude," and I go, it sounds a little, do I have to be, like I'm usually have gratitude, do I have to be when I'm there in that mode? And then the waiter's taking quite some time, and I'm going, be grateful for bread. I would be grateful and then butter with the bread, and a beverage. So now I'm working myself, and it's taking forever. And I'm going, I was grateful when I got up this morning for my kids, my health, where I live, that I got out of Philadelphia. I'm really pissed now. This damn place has got me ungrateful for all about.
And that was back when they were doing the thought of the day. You give them
give you the thought.
Right.
and they'd go,
They didn't do that with us.
Right,
I think they stopped doing that.
Discuss.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, and he's just going over.
That's funny.
Not funny. Not
I
funny.
think it's hilarious.
No gratitude that day. Before we go, because we got to wrap, I got to ask you something.
Okay.
Not one of my favorite things I've seen you in, because you've been great in a lot of stuff, but Cocaine Bear, you played Peter. Now, two things about
this is his
that.
favorst movie.
First of all, tell your story. You told us before about somebody saw you in it and commented to you.
So the first of all, Cocaine Bear is a ridiculous premise, a ridiculous movie. It's a lot of fun.
Wonderful.
If you want something serious, just steer away.
Yeah.
But the trailer itself got a lot of buzz when it came out, because everyone was like, "What the hell is this a real movie?" Like, people thought it was something that The Onion created. It's about a bear on cocaine. The title is exactly what it is.
But isn't it based on a true thing where a guy threw cocaine out of a plane?
There is a real situation where all this cocaine from the cartel was lost in the woods, and a bear found it and ate it, and then went into cardiac arrest and died. But in our version, the bear
He's an addict. He's an addict.
He becomes an addict.
Much
and
like life, it's
exactly.
He's looking for
Exactly.
Studio 54 the whole time, right?
But so
Okay.
the trailer came out, and it was, this very buzzy thing. And I tend to think that the trailer actually got more attention than the movie itself. But there was all these think pieces on the trailer, and like people were dissecting it. And I remember reading this one that was like, Cocaine Bear has everything: 80s fashion, Kerry Russell, Margot Martindale is a park ranger, Jesse Tyler Ferguson in a fat suit. Wasn't wearing a fat suit.
So
and as I explained to you, it was
hard.
in the middle of the pandemic, and I was not I was just living and not going to the gym, and I was slightly heavier, yes. And then I was also wearing harnesses because I did my own stunts.
Yes.
So okay, that was the other question. Whoa.
packs.
So in the trailer, you can see Jesse. A young kid is up a tree to avoid the bear.
Yeah.
And Jesse climbs a tree also very high.
Yes.
Were you really that high in the tree?
It was very high. It was extremely high, and I was on wires, and they had a stunt double for me, but I was really wanting to do the stunts myself. And I, you know, because like, when do I get to do this? I don't get to do stuff like that. Scale buildings.
He's
and
scared
stuff.
of heights. I'm scared of heights.
I am too. But I was like, I'm going to do it. I felt very safe. But let me tell you what. When I was up there in rehearsal, because I had a whole day of rehearsal first, I'm all the way up in this tree. I'm very, very high up. Like if I fell, I would be dead for sure. They start putting down mattresses at the bottom of the tree. And I was like, that actually makes me more nervous. That makes me more nervous because that means like something could go wrong. And I know that mattress is not going to save my life if I fall off this tree. I'm going to bounce off that and hit that other rock that I see right there.
Miss the mattress.
Cover the rock. Like I really was like, please don't put the mattresses down.
Terrific.
Please just don't let me fall. Let's just.
But you had a harness.
I had a harness
that was tied to something. So if you fell, you're hanging there.
I don't know all the details, but I was told I was very safe. I didn't feel unsafe. I felt very taken care of.
And it's a funny. Go look at the trailer.
By the way, I bailed on a stunt just like that.
Did you really?
I was in Rocky and Bullwinkle, and they didn't tell me this. They never asked. Do you have a problem with heights? And the next thing I know, I'm doing a shot on the outside walkway of a water tower. So they took the side of the water tower off so they could get a camera inside and shoot out. And that was fine because I was sitting inside the water tower. But then they closed it off, and now I'm on the little walkway, and I'm chained to this thing. I can't fall. I could be unconscious. I'm not falling off this thing. And I'm holding the stunt coordinator's leg. And now they have to get the shot. And he goes, I got to walk away. Are you okay? And I went, no, I'm not. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. And I don't think I'm going to be able to let you walk away. And I can stay here. I'm not going to be acting. There's going to be no acting. I am petrified, and no one asked me to do it. I signed nothing.
I would pay to hear what was being said between.
Oh, I'm sure.
Jason's afraid.
Can you imagine?
We're getting word
they
that Jason's
wound up
afraid.
They sent my stunt double up and had to CGI my face onto the guy.
God.
I couldn't do it.
But
and
no
I've done
knew.
heights, but I was prepared for them. They blindsided me, and I can't do this. You said a moment ago. You said the things that you can do. What double-folded question? What would you like to be doing now as far as this kind of work, and what do you think the world will let you do or not let you do?
Oh gosh,
because I have doors open and closed because I'm George Costanza.
Right, same.
I'm sure you have the same. So
absolutely.
What would you like to do versus what do you think they'll let you do?
I'm just looking for things that scare me and for things that obviously will maybe reprogram. I feel like there's a lot of like reverse programming after you do a show, like Seinfeld or Modern Family, where you have to like sort of force people to look at you differently. I mean, Cocaine Bear was a great example. I said yes to that. It was a very small part. I was in the movie for maybe 13 and a half minutes before I mauled to death. And I was like, I don't care. I want to play this part. I want to look different. I want to feel like I'm part of a show that's totally different. So, I mean, there is a bit of fighting for myself to do things. I would love to do a drama. I just feel like I look at what I've done in theater, and I've done such a different scope of things. Like for some reason in theater, they allow you to do different things, and like they go with you. And the minute you do a television show, it's like you're locked into that thing, and it's definitely, you have to sort of scrape your way out of that and crawl out of the shadow of the character that you've played.
Well, the truth is, and I've heard this from many, many people. I remember Rob Reiner told me a story about they had done Spinal Tap, they had done Harry Met Sally, they had done a bunch of comedies. Now they're casting Few Good Men, and he had a partner named Andy Scheinman who really wasn't in our business. And now all these guys are coming into a read for Few Good Men. And Andy Scheinman, after a week of auditions, goes, God, everybody that comes in is brilliant. Where were all these guys when we were doing our other films? And Rob said, those were comedies. When you can deliver in a comedy, they don't want to let you go because it is a little bit of rarefied air. And you are so brilliant at
But I think some of the best comics are really great dramatic actors.
Always. Comics can almost
look at Bryan
do
Cranston, who we were
dramatic
talking
work.
about.
But wait a minute. Let's go out two things, and we got to run. I do think comedy is something that can't be taught. I was lucky enough to have that gene. You still believe that's you?
Did I say that?
You did say that.
Arrogant, by the way. Really arrogant.
Really arrogant. God,
I do think comedy is something that can't be taught. I was lucky enough to have that gene.
No, I do think that's true. Yeah.
Okay, so that's that.
I don't think it can be taught. I think you can learn how to be a better comic, but like I feel like that instinctual
you
thing.
need the rhythm, you need the timing, etc. And then the big question, the most important that going out. Taylor Swift still in touch? You were in her video.
We created her, by the way. Do you know that?
We put her in the
We put her in her first video ever.
I did
What are you
Brad
talking
Paisley's
Not a
video.
thank you note, not a nothing.
I think she was going to do good regardless.
You think?
Yeah, I
think?
do.
Do you think?
I don't think
because we were filming her.
needed-
She was
Wait.
opening for him in the 20,000 seat arena at 17
I think you're
years
very
old.
lucky that you
Yeah.
got
Brad
her.
Paisley, we did his video. Jason got hired to direct. She was a backup singer. In
No,
that
she was an
video.
opener.
wow.
She was an
Oh,
opener.
she was the opener, but we put her in a video where she was that Jason directed, where she
That's
was
really
the backup
cool.
singer.
Yeah.
Yeah. She was 14 at that time.
God, I love her. I really admire her so much. I just went and saw her Eras tour. Yeah, I mean,
And do you go backstage after?
I have before gone backstage after her concert, but with the Eras, I mean, she was on stage for 3.5 hours. I don't think she.
Yeah.
I was like,
she
you
got
don't
paid
want.
enough,
First of all, I needed to go to bed. I'm tired now. I can't stay any longer. I got
I got
made
to up
a-
at 4 with the kids.
By the way, she's
Exactly.
3 hours. She made $1 billion on that
Good
tour.
for her. You know what?
Yeah, good for her.
Isn't that
That's
amazing?
absolutely right,
The
man.
fact that she's managed
And
to
good
go
for
from,
Beyonce too.
Yeah.
But for her, I remember she was 13. She was good enough that she convinced her parents to move out from Pennsylvania to Nashville for a publishing contract.
Yeah.
And even as a little girl, because I was doing country music at that time.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Tilly. She was on it, just on it. But
She
to have a
is.
career this long,
Yeah.
and not waver,
And she
continue.
reinvents herself, and her family. I mean, her dad, still is like at all her shows, and came and said hello to me, and brought me some of her guitar picks to give to my kids. Like, they're just
That was
really
it. You know what?
nice
Wait. He gave you guitar. That's it. Guitar.
and
picks?
actually some swag. I got a Taylor
All right,
Swift.
I was gonna say,
And at
come
the
on.
concert, people were waiting in line for like 10 hours to get swag. So
Yeah.
he saved
I'll
me
tell you
that
what
wait.
I'll tell you
Wow.
what I love and admire about her, aside
Yeah.
from the talent, and I do love her talent. I'm a fan.
Yeah.
But man, she at any given moment she's the biggest star in the world. She can't blow her nose without it making national news.
Yeah.
And under that microscope,
Yeah.
I think she has managed to live an honest
Agreed.
and rather extraordinary life of real service.
Yeah.
She's always, for my money, she's always speaking out about the right things and
Yeah.
standing up for the right
Yeah.
things. I think she's extraordinary.
Two of her backup singers are friends of mine, and they have nothing but the kindest things to say about her. It's a family unit. That entire tour is such a family unit. She does so many good things for them, and she
Right.
gave them all these crazy bonuses when the tour
You
was
got,
doing really
you
well.
got guitar picks. Okay.
And
well, thank you for being with us, Jeff. That'll tell you everything.
Thank you, Jesse
We'll see you
Tyler.
on your podcast when
Yes,
we eat together.
please.
Break bread.
All right.